Do you want to supercharge your content creation to create and keep more profitable customers? Hey, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips, and I want to share with you in this podcast how you can create content, but not create content just to be some thought leader, but actually create content in order to increase the number of clients you have, to boost your sales, and overall clean up your office. Because I know I've seen some of the copywriters that I've worked with that are subscribers, and you're probably like most copywriters and like my shitty office, where there's a mess everywhere. And this is because great copywriters have lots of ideas. I've heard stories about Jay Abraham. I think John Carlton told this story, Jay Abraham's office. It's kind of like if Jay Abraham mentions he's got something, you kind of have to make him get it for you right away, because there's so much stuff going on in his place that, and in his head, that you're not going to find it. Dan Kennedy talks about knocking over a file cabinet and taking materials to build his PowerPoints, and he just clustered up the materials and he sold it as PowerPoints. Gary Halbert, for example, was known, Bon Halbert and other people have talked about Gary Halbert having just stuff going on everywhere. But this is natural. This is okay, especially if you know a simple and easy way to supercharge your content creation by taking these ideas and materials and quickly testing them in a marketplace to see whether or not they're valid. See, the ideas and concepts you have, the experiences that you've gained over the years, have little or no value if there's no audience. I'm going to be recording this podcast, and it could easily go the way of hundreds of megabytes and gigabytes and hours of materials that I already have recorded. And that's why we're going to recycle some of those materials. But let me give you a simple 4-step way to go from concept to finished so that you can get more materials in front of prospective customers and build your copywriting business. Now, let me just share something with you right now. You might not be able to hear it, but I'm getting ready for this to do this recording. I wrote an outline up on a sheet of paper. I got my little timer out. It's supposed to be a 15-minute recording. And no sooner do I do this, does a tree trimmer down the street decide to start cutting down a tree that they should have cut down 3 weeks ago. And now they're grinding tree stumps and they're grinding materials. See, everything in the world is against you. And let me just be blunt. They're not only against you, but they're trying to get in the way of you doing what's necessary to grow your business. See, you can have copywriting skills. You can know how to use words that sell. But if you never apply those to generate leads or to produce sales, you know what? You're lost. It's as if you didn't even know. But here's the thing. It's not just the environment around you that's limiting your ability to get work done. It's also what you're being taught about copywriting and content creation. And let me just be blunt here. When I purchased Ad Briefings back in 2008, I had volumes of material. But I also had the realization that the day Patrick Quinn passed away, his family was not receiving residuals. His books were immediately forgotten, and his materials, while very valuable, they potentially could have lost an audience. So I took over the newsletter, had 200 or 300 subscribers. We built that up to maybe 1,000 or so. But over time, through my own neglect, I didn't keep that system going. So I'm going to relaunch it, start from scratch. Not a big deal, because I understand how to supercharge content creation. And it's not about content. It's about serving a specific audience. So let me share those 4 steps. Those 4 steps are: first, you're going to cluster the ideas and materials into projects. And I will tell you what that means here shortly. Then you're going to speak on the benefits and give some tips associated with it. And that's what I'm doing in a podcast, but you could do this in a letter to a target audience. You could do this in a special report. You could do this in something, but it's got to be real easy to get done, because that's what this is really about, getting things done. Then here's the trigger, because those first 2 things you're probably already doing. I have thousands of unpublished articles. I have got every email that I've sent back till 1996. Some of those emails are actually like multi-pages responses to client assignments. Okay, so I lay out the problem. I provide a few background information based on working with the client. Then I provide multiple steps on how the client can approach the problem. And then I formulate a plan of action. That's a special report, folks. But it's sitting on my hard drive doing nothing. I've got audio training. So a client calls in, we talk about a problem, I delivered my report of findings in audio, and it goes on for like 3 hours because that audio was intended also to be used as training materials for the clients themselves, and then it sits on my hard drive. Now, I'm not complaining because I've been paid for every piece of content I've created since I recycled my Punic Wars report in elementary school. And in fact, this is where some of this concept comes from. However, that constant new ideas, that desire to help, those things that make you a really good copywriter are also keeping you from getting the work done. Now, one motivator to get the work done is a really fat check. One of the things that I do to get the work done, because just doing these 2 steps is easy. Cluster materials into projects or ideas or concepts, and then speak on them. Oh, that's easy. Everybody can do that, and that's why there's just a vomit load of podcasts and reports and web pages and all that stuff. Oh, by the way, I will use profanity on the podcast, so if you're offended by that or my grammar or my casual nature of conversation, then fuck you. I don't give a shit. But here's the point. For you who are serious about making a career or making a more than a living, but providing a legacy to your family so that the day you kick the bucket, your family will be taken care of for generations, for years. While you're living, you'll have both residual and regular income, and you'll stop trading hours for dollars. Sometimes we're trading dollars for hours because we're pissing away money creating content. But here's the point. This is the next step. Number 3 is you're going to take that quick draft and you're going to turn it into lead generation. And you might be saying, well, Justin, that's so obvious. Well, I'm reading my son the book, Obvious Atoms. And yes, it is. If you've got any material that you've created in the past, any idea or concept, the faster you can put that in front of a target audience, the faster you're going to get them into some kind of purchase. So many times I would read a magazine, tear out some articles, and then I would take those articles and send them to my clients. So I see an article that I think is important for a client. I would send it to the client as part of my, just keeping in touch with clients. So that's the basics. But what about this? What if you find an article, you take the article out, you photocopy it for 100 clients, or maybe your dream 100, and you write a cover letter, and you photocopy it, get it all done, hand it to your assistant, it's sent out to 100 of your best, most ideal prospects, but you keep a copy of the original letter, the original materials. You make an offer to them, they either respond or they don't, but that's a bit better than sitting at the one person. Now, is that personal? Well, yes, I would personally sign every letter. Is that practical? Well, yes, if you've got a marketing back office in place that facilitates you reaching buyers. But what else we can do with that? Well, we can recycle it, and we do that through number 4, which is an editorial process that you follow. So listen carefully. This is important. I would also expand 4 or 5 key ideas from that article, because there's a reason you found that article of value to your Dream 100 or to a specific client. Well, let's talk about that. Drop out 3 or 4 ideas, and then now you either do a podcast, you do a webinar, you do some kind of quick event. Now, a lot of folks are going to tell you go do Facebook Live. A lot of folks are going to tell you go do the YouTube video. Yes, no, maybe so. That's a step number 2 item where you're just quickly creating some content, providing some tips. You're basically, if you were a prostitute, you would be given hand jobs in a bar just so you can maybe get some potential clients. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking a systematic approach that starts with organizing ideas and cleaning up your workspace, getting those things immediately actioned on. that content that you create generates a lead, and then those leads now receive some kind of organized material. It could be a prospect newsletter. It could be a email series. It could introduce them, like, so for example, this particular podcast, Supercharge Your Content Creation, I can also introduce you to my Content Marketing Secrets program. Now, that was a program I created for several clients. They basically commissioned me to produce materials, to provide methods and systems, and then to identify ways that they can create content quickly and put it in front of buyers. Now, they didn't like what I had to say. It's not about creating content. It's about creating buyers. What would you rather have? 1,000 articles or 1,000 customers? Well, this 4-step system that I'm sharing you right now is a precursor to a larger program where I would work with your company about your marketing back office and your system. And I'm not looking for clients. I'm giving you an example. Because this same piece of content can open the door through lead generation to topic testing methods, which is another program that I more recently done with clients that shows them how to take all of their Twitter messages for the last year and all their Facebook posts and everything and determine what topics are of value. And then that guides their content creation. So they're writing about topics that generate leads and produce customers. Again, the key here is we're doing two things at once. We are cleaning up our offices so that we can find more of what matters. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but I have found materials that were in a condition ready to publish, and it just broke my heart that I spent years working on something, or I worked on something years ago, and it's pretty much ready to use, but nobody but me has seen it. And then I'm telling my son about how I'm recycling the Punic Wars book report. I basically turned a book report into a research paper, into a civics paper. I'll find that damn thing. There's boxes everywhere in my office if you've seen pictures of it. But here's my point. You've got to do all 4 steps. You cluster the ideas and concepts into projects. You speak on the benefits and tips related to that. Okay. Now, if you're clustering something into a project, you're going to extract some key ideas. You're going to identify the audience. You're going to do these things. That's like a 5-minute activity. That's the thing that triggers your mind that this article is good for that customer or that client. Then you're going to speak on the benefits and tips. 15 minutes, folks. And we're almost up at the 15 minutes. My little timer's going to go off. Even though the tree trimmers are down the street cutting down a tree and making a bunch of noise, it's still got to get done. And yes, people will complain about the sound quality and the use of language, but it's a draft. Get it done. Then we're going to use it for lead generation. I mentioned 2 unique toolkits that I may or may not do intensives on later, but as a clients come forward and they say, hey, I need help with such and such, I go to a library of materials. See, I don't have to invent anything. I've already got experiences and context and skills that I can just package up and give to the next customer. I didn't have to create anything from scratch. I didn't have to have a marketing editorial calendar or anything like that. That comes later. Right now, I have an idea that might be of interest to specific subscribers of Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips, so I bundle it up, put it in front of you, and if you're interested, you'll raise your hand by opening a ticket when you visit www.adbriefings.co.uk, or when you reply or ask your question or participate in a group Q&A call. That's the way it works. But the 4th part is what takes it the extra mile. And this is probably where you're already struggling. It's the editorial process. So if you're creating content that's not getting published, if you're answering questions from customers that goes no further, if you're sending lead generation and marketing campaigns that are kind of once and done, or even worse, you're giving away a lot of good content on your website, like that prostitute giving handjobs in a bar, look, you're not getting paid. So essentially, not only are you trading hours for dollars later when you finally get a customer who discounts you because you gave away most of the good stuff up front anyway, instead, you're building a mailing list of people who are interested and can uniquely benefit from what it is that you have to offer. And yes, the initial materials might be crude. Oh, there's the clock. There's the clock. We got to wrap this up quick. The initial materials might be crude, they might be draft, but they're done. They're done. And then when a lead opens the door and says, or raises their hand and says, I need more, then you create additional content specific for them. And through your editorial process, you're going to have you're going to have drafts. You're going to have an editor help you with the editing. You're going to have somebody doing the publishing. Your webmaster puts it on the website. You're going to have an opportunity to recycle those materials. But you're going to have a big giant list of leads who give a damn about the topic that you're covering. And if you're 50 podcasts in or 50 blog posts in and you still haven't started picking up the leads, you need to have a way through your editorial system to measure progress, to zero in on the topics that are really of interest to your buyers, because that's ultimately what matters. But after you get that list of the first 100 clients, you'll go from a Dream 100 list of prospects to a Dream 100 list of ideal customers, those repeat customers, and then you're going to repeat the same process again for those buyers. And then what motivates the buyers to continue to purchase will then generate overall results. So you might be saying, Justin, there's a lot of constraints in this, but I tell you, in this 16 minutes, I've demonstrated a simple method for supercharging content creation and put content in front of you so you can do the same. And then I'm done. I'm going to take this outline that I wrote up on a piece of paper here. I'm going to put it in my filing system. It's going to go on a shelf somewhere. And the next time I'm talking about content creation, I have draft materials. But more important, I have something in front of you right now with the offer, because this is the cap off, with the offer that if you have questions about this or any other program I cover, be sure to visit www.adbriefings.co.uk. When you join our mailing list, you'll certainly get resources and information like this, but I don't really give a damn if you join the mailing list. But what I do care about is, have I been able to clearly see? Here's another distraction. You hear the dog? Zola, what you doing? There's always distractions, folks. It's all around you. And this is a simple way to take that clutter, to take that distraction and package it up into value, okay? Not content. Value that gets prospects to raise their hand, supercharges your lead generation, and moves you forward to then an editorial system that creates products, not promises, products, where you can then build lists of buyers. I know it might be difficult for some. I know it's not difficult for you, because if you have a question, you're going to contact us at www.adbriefings.co.uk. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefings Copywriting Tip, and this has been podcast N1130A. If you have any questions about this, any of the strategies that I've shared in these 4 simple steps to supercharge your content creation, then simply contact us, mention the program code, and I'll be happy to answer those questions in a future podcast or in another. I might even find something in my file cabinet I can photocopy and send to you. Thanks for listening. Again, I'm Justin Hitt from Ad Briefings Copywriting Tips, here to help you create and keep profitable customers and transform every business relationship into profits guaranteed.